I'm back in a bike shop. This time it's Woolys Wheels in Paddington in Sydney, and they're going to help me put together a new bike. It's actually a bike that I bought. It's a new mountain bike. It's been since 2012 that I've ridden a Trek Fuel 9.7, and the time has come to get off a triple chain set onto a one by and switch from Shimano to SRAM. My mountain biking's an eclectic range of riding. A lot of it is with the family. I pretty much go wherever the bike leads me. What I do like is having a dropper post, arguably the best invention in cycling in the last couple of years. I did a quick little poll on Facebook a little while ago and asked readers what they would buy if they were buying a new mountain bike in 2019. And the range of bikes was interesting, and I'm grateful for everyone who offered a comment. I've decided on this brand, the one that's soon to come out of this box, for a number of reasons, and I'll explain why later. I'll just wait for traffic in the shop to settle down, and then I'm going to unbox and I'll tell you more about the bike as it is put together. 7 years is a long time in mountain bike terms. So much has happened with product development that it felt like I was actually going to a bike shop for the very first time. It's worth noting, however, that the Trek that I had served me well. There were many hours on the trails, most of them good, and occasionally a couple of nasty seconds. I'm pleased to report that the bike survived, and the moral to the story is, no matter what happens, just keep riding. As much as I love the Trek, the 7-year itch has struck and it's time to move on. I do like this part. I'm expecting to know what colour it is. It's sort of an aqua green, marine-y, bluey thing. But either way, I know one thing, it's going to be a better looking bike in terms of colour than the Trek. Just blow that tyre over there. What I do know is that in terms of colour, it's going to be much better looking than the Trek. Don't get me wrong, I love the Fuel, I love the way it rode, and it served me well for many years, but it had a dark green to light green scheme, which was arguably the ugliest bike you've ever seen. Anyway, let's have a look at what's inside. I can see inside the box, I know what colour it is, and it's a more olive than bright green, but that's all I'll say for the time being. Let's have a look. Ta-da! Doesn't mean much to you at the moment. What I do know, it's a 29er wheel, it's a Focus, it's a Jam, and it's a 8.9 or something. I'm not really familiar with the naming protocol of mountain bikes, but we've got a riser post or a dropper post that's going to go in there. And I've got a mechanic who's waiting at the workstation ready to put it all together, so I'll let him tell the rest of the story. Thought I'd have a look inside the box and just sort of reveal a couple of little extras that come with the bike before we really look at the bike. It's not going to be a comprehensive unboxing. I'm not going to weigh every part and go through all of the minutiae that I have done in the past, because I'm keen to get out and go for a ride. But let's have a look at a couple of important things. Number one, the aforementioned dropper post. Dropper posts are arguably my favourite product in cycling at the moment. I wonder when the time will come that they'll be used on the road, so we don't have to see people pedalling on the top tube. But I have asked mechanics from well-funded teams, like Team Sky, when they're going to start using that, and they looked at me like I was some kind of nut. Anyway, this is the one for my mountain bike, and apart from showing you the picture, I can't tell you much about it at all. I let the mechanics do the mechanical work, then I do the talking and listening. It's a Focus branded saddle, and I can't say it's very light, but the shape looks pretty good. I don't mind the look of that. We'll see how she goes under my bum. I tend to ride all the stock products on the mountain bike. I did very little upgrading of my previous bike. So we'll see how this one goes. I had a RockShox dropper post originally. I changed to a Thompson. It was one of the best things I did. But even that Thompson has gone in for a couple of warranty repairs, and it had to go back to the local distributor, fixed there and sent back to me twice. It's worth doing because when they function well, they function beautifully, and when they go bad, they go real bad. So I do have a couple of issues with the dropper post, although I do love them. Otherwise, we've got the goodie bag that came in the box. The service booklet. Not as big as some I've seen. One massive rotor. Fox manual. I'm actually going to keep that and I'm going to read it so that I understand it a little bit better, because suspension is something that's out of my realm. You can have a crack at that second headline word. I have no idea what it says or means. But I can tell you that we're a bit old school here, no memory stick. Google it, kids. It's what we used to use in the olden days. I think it's a CD-ROM. It's basically the instruction book, and it's littered with QR codes. But I would recommend, as I always do, that you get your bike built in a bike shop. Don't try it yourself. You can do it, but eliminate the hassle. Spend a little bit of money and get it done properly. Let's get to building this bike. To be honest, I'm a little bit surprised. On the site, it looks a little bit brighter than this. It's a bit more of a darker green. When we see it in the sunlight, it might sing a little bit more. What you obviously need for a mountain bike is a finish that is more resilient than you need on the road. You can have terrible finishes on a road bike and it's really going to make a good bike bad. I remember a DeRosa that we tested years ago. It was a bright orange, it looked spectacular, but you looked at it and the paint chipped off. It was terrible. On the mountain bike, I know they've done a lot of work on the paint. Basically, everyone knows that they are more robust, more resilient on a lot of fronts, but it's also worth noting that after 6 or 7 years of use on my old mountain bike, there's hardly a chip on it, and there were certainly a few accidents. So a set of broken ribs at Easter this year, or last year, and a couple of different good, spectacular accidents at Mount Stromlo where there's nasty terrain and some good stones that can make a big, nasty mess of your bike. I came out pretty lucky. Ultimately, my shock on the trek blew up on Christmas Eve. I lost a week of riding and it was really upsetting, and so the decision was made, it's time to upgrade to a new bike. I can get the shock repaired, I will repair the shock, but there was sort of, I kept being laughed at when I was telling people that I was still riding a bike from 2012. They were like, ooh. When it was time to repair the shock, it was sort of like I was talking about something from 100 years ago. Anyway, this is Paul. He's putting the bike together. During the course of him doing that, he's going to offer a few comments from the mechanic's perspective, but otherwise I'm just going to tell you what I see as it comes out of the box. And what I've seen so far, I like. So that's positive. It retails in Australia for $5,499. And I'm always shocked at how much value you get from your mountain bikes compared to what you get on a road bike. The spend on a road bike is significantly more for higher end bikes. Would you agree?
Yeah, totally.
Ridiculous.
Totally, yeah.
Especially considering the punishment that you can dish out on these things and the complexities that go into the linkage systems, to the shock, to everything. I mean, and what I love about mountain bikes in the modern world, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, is they look fantastic, but more than that, there's so much to talk about. So if I had a choice of doing a test of a road bike versus a test of a mountain bike, there is no choice, because mountain biking's heaps of fun and there's so much variation, and you don't have to make up stuff about being more aerodynamic, lighter, more rigid and faster. Isn't that right? And that's painful.
We were selling bikes that are upwards of 20,000 British pounds, and they're road bikes, and then you get a mountain bike in with like a molded carbon front end, like 2 separate molds used to make the rear end, like linkages are molded from carbon. So you have so many parts, there's so much process put into building them, and yet the top end of those is like, in the UK was like £9,000.
More than half of what a road bike would be.
Yeah. Still like hard to spend more than that on a road bike, but it's easy. It's very durable. Yeah, it's interesting.
It's not bad, it's not bad. After what I've been on though, I wanted to have a little bit more sparkle to it.
Yeah, okay.
You know.
Okay.
I'm not complaining. I'm not going to talk any more about the colour, I promise. But first impression is, what stands out is the colour.